Hey everyone, and welcome to the January edition of 3030. I am Pat Reinhardt, your host from Conductor, and as always, thank you so much for spending 30 minutes of your valuable time with me. Happy New Year to everybody out there, and I promise that's the last time I'm going to say that for the rest of the year to you. So, what happened in January? Let's see what happened over the last 30 days. So, we're going to talk about what I am seeing and hearing from the updates in December. That's right, updates, plural. There were two. So, the December 2024 core update and spam updates, which rolled out right next to each other. We're going to get into that. Next, we're going to talk about our latest AI overview analysis, what we are seeing in our data. We do these periodically, and the amount of data that we have grows every single time. We started with around 8 million keywords. We are up to 74 million. So that data set just gets bigger and bigger. We're going to talk about, something that was said at Google's live webmaster, event, talking about more core updates more often, something I've been talking about for many years if you've been joining the show. And then we're going to wrap it all up with a little chat about Google's global search market share falling below 90% for the last 3 months of 24. Of course, I'll probably sneak some Sam Darnold jokes in there, him seeing ghosts out there in that Vikings game. But regardless, let's jump into it because we only have 30 minutes. Number one, everybody, December was a fiery month because we got two updates right on the heels of the November 2024 core update. So what happened? A little bit of a whirlwind here. What you're seeing is the volatility chart from SEMrush, one of our data partners. And as you can see here, it really ramped up, actually ramped down, after the November core update. But the December core update rolled out just a week after it. And then right after that, so the December core update rolled out on December 12th, right? Completed 6 days later. Very quick, very, very weird. Yes, December sucked. It did suck. There was a lot of down. There was a lot of up, mostly down from what I saw. But the spam update then rolled out on the 19th and completed 7 days later. So that's a little weird, right? That's a little weird. That's quicker than usual. And that's kind of my first takeaway from this, and something that I think we all need to prepare for. I mean, we've been saying this for many, many years, that Google is going to, if we actually go back 3 years, I was looking at old 3030 decks, and I had one where it was the first time that Google had rolled out an update on top of another update. I can't remember which one it was. Doesn't matter. But I had said, and I listened back to the recording, and I actually said that we were like, hey, we have to be ready for this, that Google's going to do more of these more often. They're going to start rolling all of these into one another. And that, everybody, is what we are seeing now. We are going to see we're going to see way more core updates. Typically, we see between 3 and 4 a year. Last year, I believe we had 4. But I think we're going to see, like 7 to 10 of them during next year, because just the way that AI is changing things, the way that Google is using Gemini, like AI shipped 25% of their code at the end of Q3 from their earnings report. So we're going to see much more volatility, even more than we've seen in past years. And I think we're going to see more of these updates more often, and we all just kind of have to be ready for that. Again, I don't think that's new news, but I don't think, like, I've been shocked that we've only been getting 3 or 4 the last couple of years. I think we're going to see like double that this year, but only time will tell. Next one, no major movement across retail. I'll get into the data in a minute. So usually retail has been the most volatile over the last 18 months, especially since the September 2023 helpful content update. But this one was a little tame on the retail side. Interestingly, something that I came across during a customer discussion and in our data was that, a sector that I haven't covered too much is hospitality. And hospitality has been going crazy over the last year. So again, I'll get into that a little bit. Unfortunately, for any financial aggregators or content hubs out there still having a hard time, your Credit Karmas of the world and Bankrates of the world, health sites continue their slide with more losses and visibility on page 1. I'll get into that. I'm really talking about WebMD. And then everybody, it's happened. Now, for anyone that Reddit has seen a decline. Now, For anyone that has joined the program regularly, I have said that this whole thing about Reddit is like the Twitter fire hose, where when Google first got access to the Twitter fire hose, I've said we are going to see a month where Reddit starts to drop off. This might be the beginning. I think this was that month, and we might see more declines, but we'll see. But I'll get more into that once we get to the data. Let's get into it though, right? So let's start with retail. I somewhat default to retail for some reason. I think it's because I used to run an e-commerce site before I went into the agency world way back when. But let's talk about like bigger retailers, right? So Home Depot, basically flat from a page one perspective. 1% decrease. This is a pretty good representation that I saw across larger retail brands. Looking at another one, Best Buy, again, 1% decrease in visibility through the updates. Nothing exciting, kind of boring. When you go down to smaller retailers, you kind of see the same story. Anna Ono, they sell post-op mastectomy bras. Great mission, great people that run that company. Check them out if it's something that you've experienced. But amazing mission, amazing people running that company, and their site has been growing since the summer. This is actually the first time that they saw a decline, about 4% decrease in page one visibility during the holidays, and through the December update. It did impact their traffic, not by a ton, but did not knock their revenue. So their revenue actually over the last 30 days, was up 8%. So again, that kind of goes back to something that I was actually talking about online. I think it was Aleda that was talking about it. Was that like rankings don't equate to traffic, then traffic doesn't necessarily equate to revenue, right? What we really want to make sure is that our sites rank for the right things, because if you rank for the right things, you get the right traffic, and then people buy things or you get a lead or whatever your conversion point is. I've said over the course of my entire career, I would rather send 1,000 people to your site that are going to buy something than 10,000 people that are going to window shop. Again, traffic and rankings, they're not necessarily the height of them, the numbers of them don't necessarily matter unless people are converting. It's really like I would take less traffic and less rankings overall if I had a group of the right rankings and the right traffic that was consistently growing my business over time. So we all have to keep that in mind. Wetsuit Warehouse, I was going to show them. Saw similar numbers with a 4% decrease as well. Good representation of the of smaller e-commerce sites and smaller retailers. And that's really what I'm seeing across retail. Nothing really exciting. This is the first time, really since the summer, where I feel like retail has kind of plateaued, because like it was really rocky for a while, big declines, but it feels like even the conversations I'm having with our retail customers, most are feeling better about things, or at least more stable about things. Although everyone recognizes there's still a big hill that we need to climb to get back, because most retailers are down. I covered this a couple of months ago, and I'm going to redo this analysis probably for next month. But retail is down about 28% across the board when you average it all out. So retail had a tough 2024. Let's get into hospitality, which is a more positive story. So if you're in hospitality, high five. So Hilton.com saw a 1% increase in page one visibility during the update. So again, nothing necessarily exciting about these updates. But then I was looking over the last 12 months, and they're actually up 32%. So kind of bucking the trend. Fourseasons.com up 2%, over the last month or so, in page one visibility. But again, over the last 12 months, 33% increase. I saw this across almost every single hospitality related site, and even aggregators like TripAdvisor, again, flat, through the updates, but similar growth, 27% increase in page one visibility over the last 12 months, which is really interesting. And why is that? Like, why hasn't hospitality been impacted by this? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with Google. Every time you Google like, hey, flights or things like that, Google shows up because they want you to book a flight, want you to book a hotel through a Google product. So they're probably not changing those SERPs too much because they're probably making a lot of money off of it. But it's really interesting to see kind of the opposite, especially from an aggregator standpoint, like a TripAdvisor or Expedia. I could have picked any of them, a Kayak, all of them were up like this. And it was really interesting because in most other sectors or verticals, we are seeing a decrease. We are seeing a decrease, like a massive decrease in those types of sites. And I was expecting, and again, it's not that we're not seeing the hotels show up either. Like Fourseasons.com is showing up, Hilton.com is showing up, Hyatt.com, they're showing up. but they're, but even these aggregators, they're all doing better, which is really, really interesting. Abby, not including restaurants in this. This is mainly hotel chains. So I probably should have clarified that. When I think, like when I was talking to someone about this, it happened to be a hotel chain. So I probably should have said hotel chains, not, because I know hospitality is bigger than that, but really interesting to see this trend in these types of sites. So getting back into financial, this is, like I've been tracking Credit Karma and Bankrate and a bunch of these other like big, what I'm calling aggregator, but are really like content hub type sites. Like seeing like they've seen such massive declines. I've been hoping for a comeback story because the team here is great, but no help in this update. They remain flat. But when you think about it, like since over the last year, they've been hit by every major update. Maybe this is a win. Remaining flat, they weathered an update without seeing a decline. Again, I'm hoping this is the start of a good comeback story for these guys. Bankrate, opposite end of the spectrum. So another 6% decline in page one visibility continues that downward trend that started, really during the November update, because they've been steadily going down. I mean, literally since September 2023, but they hit like a plateau, through the summer, right? Like they really do it, but then updates started to hit, and then really the November update, wasn't kind to them, and the December update was even worse. So again, these big aggregator sites, especially in like YMYL type sites, which is interesting. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, that stands for your money or your life. And that is sites that have content that could impact your financial or physical well-being. They are treated differently by Google, and so when you look at this, again, what we're seeing here is sites like this go down and financial institutions go up, such as Bank of America or, Capital One and things like that. So it's an interesting trend. And probably the most shocking thing that I've seen is in healthcare is what's going on with WebMD right now, right? Continue to fall during this update. A total of 6%, another 6% decrease during these updates brings their total to 33% down, 33% down since July. This is really shocking. Honestly, this is really shocking to me. Like when Google first started talking about like helpful content and all that, whatever that means, like they basically specifically called out WebMD as a source that would, that's the type of site that we want to see that is answering questions, highly authoritative, that they called it was highly authoritative, health related sites, which is like, they're the biggest one. That's obviously you're talking about them, Healthline, there's a bunch of others, right? But it's really shocking to me that since July, they just kept getting hit. The August update, then as you go through the other updates, November was, that was, September and October were flat, but then November you saw a chunky decrease, and then this decrease was super chunky, and it's getting even worse heading into July. This is really surprising to me, given the authority of this site, and you're also seeing it on Healthline. Again, that not as bad, 1% decrease, so they didn't get hit as badly in these updates, but they are also 13% down since July, and everybody. This is me calling my theory here is that these bigger aggregator sites are getting replaced by the place where you can buy hospital systems, by doctors' offices, by banks, by the institutions that are in here, and also by conversations on forums and things like that. That certainly plays into it. But I'm shocked that these two sites, and WebMD in particular, is losing so much visibility. Now, they're still ranking for an insane amount of keywords, don't get me wrong, but when you think about their height in July, which was probably over 5 million, and now they are below 4 million, that's a huge change. That is a huge loss in a very short period of time. So I'll be interested to see when this plateaus, or or worse, if this plateaus. And then last but not least, we're gonna wrap it all up with our favorite site, Reddit. 6% decrease. Everyone, I told you it was going to happen. I told you it was going to happen for the last few months. I said this, they have been on a tear, a meteoric tear for the last 18 months or so, and which is totally fine. It is what it is. I have no issue either way. That's what, they're testing something out. But I've been talking that this felt so much like when Google got access to the Twitter fire hose. If everyone remembers, and for people who have joined, I've talked about this a lot, where people were, every time you Googled anything, a Twitter carousel showed up. You could Google like carburetor and a Google and a Twitter carousel will show up. But then one day there was a sharp decrease, because I think they started to get feedback from the industry. This is showing up too much. I believe this might be the start of that, right? It could be, listen, next month they could shoot up another 50%. Who knows? But we might start to see Reddit start to pull back. I have noticed it not show up as much as it typically does. It's not so much in my face, I feel. But again, will this be the beginning of a plateau or a little bit of a pullback on this one site dominating? And maybe we'll see other forms and other forms of, kind of like human conversation come in. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's really wild. It's really wild to see this, this epic tear that they've been on. And then this is the first decrease, like significant decrease, I would say, that they've seen in 18 months, like a year and a half. So it's really nuts. Anyway, so just that's the data. That's what we're seeing through the updates. Again, mixed bag. Some big declines. Again, it's the bigger like aggregators slash content hub sites that I'm seeing getting really hurt, getting hurt, quote unquote, here. Retail was kind of flat, like 1, 2%, 4%, not that much, nothing crazy. But yeah, and then Reddit, like finally starting to see some forums taking a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather from these tears that they've been on. So moving on from there, let's talk about AI overviews, right? And the updated trends that we have. So from a keyword generation standpoint, and actually before I get into that, want to call out my colleague, Zach Kadish, who I've been working with the entire time at Conductor. He's a great SEO strategist. He does these analyses. And so his link to his LinkedIn is here. He shares a lot of great stuff on LinkedIn. Follow him if you get the chance to. And let's get into the data. So from a keyword generation standpoint, out of 74.2 million keywords analyzed, so that's our largest keyword set that we have data on, 6.87%, so just about 7% are generating AI overviews. It's a big increase. It's a 30% increase in the presence of AI overviews compared to the previous month. So we are seeing them grow, but I'm also seeing them grow. I still think they're growing slower than I anticipated. I thought that we were going to see this thing at like 25% by now, and we're still in the single digits. So, but again, a small number of a big number is still a big number, right? So 6.87% of 74.2 million, that's still a big number. The overall trend for device distribution. Smartphones are now dominating, occurrences a total of 63% for all searches. Not surprising. An emerging shift that we saw in November, that AI overviews were nearly balanced between, smartphone and desktop, about 49% to 50%. December saw a sharp increase in smartphone occurrences to 70%, with desktop dropping to 29%. This really isn't that surprising, that we're going to see more of this on smartphone. Makes sense. I'm surprised that desktop dropped so much, but at that point, but like I don't know, it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see that smartphone, shot up so much, and desktop kind of just took a back seat. Global presence, majority of AI overviews are still appearing in the United States. About 91% of all AI overviews in our data coming from Google US. They are global, but most of them are showing in the US right now. Again, not super surprising to me. Next countries with the most AI overviews are the UK, Canada, Australia, and India. Again, I think we'll continue to see this list diversify. But when you look at industry-specific stuff, just comparing the previous analysis to this one, professional services, declined 6%, but still has a hefty 13%. Healthcare providers and services, this month, 9.3%, 4.6% decrease. Internet software and services, huge gain, a 15% gain, really significant increase there from 6.6 to 21.6. Financial services, decline of, about 4%. Banks, decline about 3%. Insurance, decline about 3.5%. Media, pretty much the same. Automotive, almost 5% gain. Educational services, about 2% decrease, and pharmaceuticals, just about the same. So when you look at this, again, there's what this tells me, and what you should take away from this is that there is still an insane amount of volatility going on within the AI overviews. We are still seeing a ton of things shifting around. We will continue to bring you these data points, in many different forms. I will cover it every time the analysis is done. But again, AI overviews, the headline is they're growing. So everything's so they're growing slower than I thought that they would, but they're still extremely volatile, and we're going to continue to see things shift around for probably for maybe indefinitely. These may always be this volatile, so it'll be interesting to see over the next year as Gemini and everything AI like really cements itself into what companies are doing, and what Google said that this 2025 is a big year for AI and search. So we're gonna see some fireworks here, right? All right, let's get into the second to last topic, which is more car updates more often. So I think the slide says it all. Not my slide, the slide from the Google event here in Zurich. So it was the Google Search Central Live event. I think they do it once a quarter at their headquarters in Zurich. That's where the search team is based. I frequent Search Engine Roundtable, Barry Schwartz's site, and I came across this article, which was interesting to read. And basically, what was happening is that there was a presenter who shall remain nameless. If you can see to the bottom right, they actually asked the audience, as they were tweeting out and things, to keep the person who was presenting their name anonymous. I think we all know why. For the doomsday commenters out there, people, they don't want people receiving death threats. They don't want people, receiving mean emails. It's really tough for these folks that are, that are reporting stuff from the SEO standpoint, because if something goes bad for a large group of people, which it typically does, you're gonna get some hate there. But really what they were saying was that they basically said like there were going to be more core updates more often, and like what that means is what I was saying before. I think instead of the 3 to 4 core updates that we're getting right now, we're going to see double that. It was interesting. Barry actually had an interesting take on it, where he was saying that maybe this means that they would be running in more real time. Maybe we saw that in December they ran 2 updates that only took 6 days. That is pretty much half the time that they usually take. Is that a new thing? Like, are they going to roll out updates that only take a day or 2 because AI can make it, can get them what they need to do faster? I don't know. And he also said something that, maybe they'll just be rolling updates where it's kind of always it's kind of always updating, right? It's always that's just what's happening. They're updating. They're not actually announcing anything. I don't think we're going to get there because I think Google's just more calculated than that. Do I think that that's their ultimate goal? Probably, probably that would be. But as but from that perspective, that's definitely something to take into account. And again, the person who said this, we don't know. It's very ominous. But no, they don't want that person to be called out in public for obvious reasons. And I agree with it. I've seen some horrible things being said to people, from Google. Matt Cutts comes to mind, over the years, if everyone is as old as I am, remembers that Matt Cutts used to receive death threats, from people when changes were made, and he was the face of it. So you got to be careful with that stuff, which I recognize. So that's what's going on with that. So again, I think we all have to buckle up with I think we all have to buckle up for that. I think that's I think that's from I think that's something that we really all need to recognize. That's going to be super volatile. I want to go over to the chat for a minute, and again, I want to thank everyone for calling something out. Include some manufacturing related data points. You got it. So I am happy to show whatever industry specifically that you all want me to. Next time around, manufacturing will be in there. I will take a note. But again, if there is a specific industry that you do want me to cover on the show, just shoot me an email, reinhardt@conductor.com. I will cover whatever industry you want. I just typically do the ones that I do because they cover the largest part of our customer base. But I am happy to show anything that you guys want. Erica, I am happy to include insurance as well. Financial services, we usually cover that, but I can do a little bit more specific. But I usually try to cover 3 to 4 of them. But gyms would probably fall into healthcare. Professional services, absolutely. But thank you for calling that out, and I love feedback like this. So I will make sure that next time those are the industries that we will cover, and also we'll cover educational services as well. Yes, education service would include higher education. So if you were like a Coursera or something like that, I would consider that all. But yeah, so and more coming. So again, I will cover all these. Thank you so much. Again, this is for, I want to make sure I'm giving y'all what you want. So I'm happy to cover those industries. So thank you all for that feedback. Getting into the last thing here. How are we doing on time? We got 5 minutes left, everyone. It's okay. And I haven't mentioned Sam Sam Darnold once. Google's global market share. I got like 100 questions about this week. Basically what happened, Danny Goodwin, who is the editor in chief over at Search Engine Land, called out that Stat Counter said, which is a global market, search market share that pretty much everyone uses when they're looking. It's like, hey, what's that look like? There's a few different sites that do it. Stat Counter is usually always out there. Said that in October, November, December of 2024, Google's market share fell below 90%, right? So the question obviously was, how far below did it go? He reported, it's not very, right? Like 89, we're talking fractional percentage, percentage points here. And of course, like the reaction I got from most people is like, Pat, that doesn't really seem like that much, right? Is this really news? And, I'm with you all, but we have to recall that, we have to remember that, trends have to start somewhere. Drops have to start somewhere. Is this the beginning of Google, being used less? Probably not. Again, like I would have to see a significant, like I would have to see like a 3 to 5% drop, over the course of a few months, if I felt like something was really changing. And before, and again, like before anyone asks, like where did the traffic go? Mainly, it looked like it went to Bing, Yahoo, and DuckDuckGo. But these trackers, these like overarching like search, engine trackers, do have an other category. And I'm sure the LLMs, ChatGPT, Perplexity.ai, they're all in there. But again, like I want to reiterate that I do not believe that we are going to see, this precipitous drop in Google usage in the next year. I don't think we're going to see it in the next 2 or 3 years, probably. But I will say that this is the first time in my career that I believe that Google will not own 90% of the market share in search, of the search market share, I should say, 5 years from now. I think LLMs will make a dent. I don't think they're going to make a huge dent this year. But again, these are things that we all have to recognize, that the industry is changing, the world is changing, AI is going to change everything. But from that perspective, we all have to take that into account. Good question here. Could the drop be from social media like TikTok and Gen Z plays a role? 100%. Hillel, 100%. That is definitely something. We all know that children start their searches 40% of the time from TikTok and Instagram, which I think is more of an existential threat to Google right now because it's more of a generational shift. I don't think the LLMs will take over market share until younger people get older, and that's just what they grew up with. But we'll have to see, right? I could be dead wrong about that. I don't think I am, but but that's something that we all have to take into account. So with that, everyone, just kind of keep that, and another good point right here that Jesse said. It's like we also have to remember that TikTok is getting banned on Sunday, right? It's the 19th, I think. It's Sunday, right? And it doesn't sound like there's any out from it right now. It sounds like the Supreme Court is not going to let them continue to work. It looks like all TikTokers are starting to go over to that other one. I can't remember the name of it. There's another that ByteDance also owns. I think there's actually 2 of them that ByteDance owns that are similar types of platforms. But it will be curious to see what happens after TikTok goes away. Will these other platforms just pick it up? Is there a competitor in America that will pick it up? Will they just go to Instagram? I don't know, but this might be the end of TikTok. Red Note, that's it. Thank you so much. Red Note and Lemon. Yes, thank you. That's what Lemon 8. Yes, thank you. Thank you to the audience for that. So with that, everybody, I know we're just at time. Everybody, we talk a lot about algorithms here, but as we all know, the only algorithm that matters is the heart, mind, soul of your customer. Always create great content that you like and love. They will be customers for life. I do office hours where you can huck live questions at me every Tuesday after the live show. This Tuesday, January 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern, we will be doing it. Please come. We actually just launched something where you can pre-ask questions. We would love for you to pre-ask questions. So I'm happy to answer anything. But come live and have chat. It's me, Masson. We're hanging out, having high fives. It's great. And with that, everybody, thank you all so much. I'm always humbled with the audience. I say this every month, but this is my favorite part of my job. I would not be able to do it without you. Thank you so much for spending 30 minutes of your valuable time with me. I know everybody is busy, truly humbled. And remember, it's January 15th or 16th today. We can stop saying Happy New Year at the beginning of every call. It's allowed. It's okay. And now it's just winter and it's cold and we're all looking forward to the spring. So everyone, once again, thank you so much. And we will see you next month.